Vancouver in the 1980s was a city experiencing significant growth and transformation. The city was becoming increasingly diverse, with a growing Asian population, particularly from Hong Kong. This influx of immigrants helped to make Vancouver a multicultural city with a rich blend of cultures and cuisines. During this time, Vancouver was also undergoing significant economic growth, particularly in the real estate and construction sectors. The growth was fueled in part by foreign investment, including from Hong Kong, which was experiencing its own economic boom. This led to a surge in development projects and a corresponding increase in demand for skilled labour. However, this growth was not without its challenges. There was significant political tension between provincial government and the city of Vancouver, particularly over issues relating to urban planning and development. Additionally, the city was struggling with rising crime rates, particularly in certain neighbourhoods that were known for gang activity and drug trafficking. One organised crime group who were looking to take advantage of Vancouver's rapid economic growth were none other than the Chinese Mafia, or more commonly known as the Triads. The Triads are one of the world's oldest and most notorious organised crime groups, with a history dating back centuries. During the 19th century, the Triads became involved in organised crime, including smuggling, gambling and prostitution. After the Communist Party took power in China in 1949, many Triad members fled to Hong Kong and Taiwan, where they continued their criminal activity. From there they spread to other parts of the world, including Southeast Asia, Europe and North America. Today, the Triads are involved in a wide range of illegal activities, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, exploitation, money laundering and cybercrime. They continue to operate in many parts of the world, often with help from corrupt officials and politicians. Despite efforts from law enforcement agencies to dismantle their network, the Triads remain a significant force in the global underworld. Vancouver, with its location on the Pacific coast and proximity to Asia, has become a major entry point for drugs coming into North America. The Triads are known for using Vancouver as a key location for importing and distributing drugs such as heroin, fentanyl and methamphetamine. The drugs are often smuggled into Vancouver via shipping containers, hidden in various goods such as electronics, food products and clothing. Once the drugs arrive, they are typically distributed through a network of criminal associates. The Triads' involvement in drug trafficking has had devastating effects on communities in Vancouver and beyond. Fentanyl, a synthetic opiate that is often laced into other drugs, has caused an epidemic of overdose deaths in British Columbia and other parts of Canada. Despite this, the Triads' drug trafficking operation was generating millions of dollars, which of course needed to be laundered. In the 1990s, several casinos in the Vancouver area were found to be involved in money laundering schemes that were linked to the Triads. At the time, casinos in British Columbia were not required to report large cash transactions, making them attractive to organised crime groups looking to launder money. The Triads were able to take advantage of this lack of regulation by bringing large amounts of cash to casinos and exchanging it for chips. The chips were then used to play games, and any winnings could be cashed out without arousing suspicion, thus producing clean money. However, with their drug empire growing, the Triads needed to find a way of laundering much larger sums of money. This is where the Vancouver real estate market comes in. For many years, the Vancouver real estate market was characterised by the lack of regulation and oversight, which created an environment which was ripe for money laundering and other illicit activities. The Canadian government did not require banks to report suspicious transactions relating to real estate, which made it easier for criminals to launder their money through the purchase of properties. The lack of regulation in the Vancouver real estate market created the perfect environment for money laundering, with criminals able to easily purchase properties using illicit funds and then sell them later, often at a significant profit. It was this lack in regulation in the Vancouver real estate market that created the perfect opportunity for the Triads. They took advantage of the city's economic growth to build a lucrative money laundering operation that would become known as the Vancouver model. The Vancouver model of money laundering is a sophisticated scheme that has been used to launder billions of dollars of illicit funds through Vancouver's real estate market. This model is based on the use of luxury real estate properties to launder illicit funds primarily from the drug trade. The Triads have been linked to the Vancouver model through their connections to Chinese nationals who are involved in the practice. These Chinese nationals are often wealthy individuals or business people who use their connections to the Triads to facilitate the transfer of drug money from China to Canada. One of the most prominent individuals involved in the Vancouver model is Paul King Jin. Jin is a real estate developer and businessman who was alleged to have used his connections to the Triads to launder millions of dollars in drug money through his company, Silver International. Jin was also accused of using his connections to transfer drug money from China to Canada. Jin's story is one of wealth and power. He was born in China in 1965 and immigrated to Canada in the late 1980s. He started his career as a real estate agent and worked his way up to become a prominent developer in the Vancouver area. However, his story is not without controversy. In 2009, he was sued by a group of investors who claimed he had misled them into investing into a real estate project that never materialized. Jin denied the allegations and the case was eventually settled out of court. Despite this setback, Jin's wealth and influence continued to grow. He became involved in various business ventures, including the operation of a high-stakes gambling den in Richmond, British Columbia. He was also rumoured to have connections to the Triads, and his name was mentioned in several police investigations into organised crime in the Vancouver area. Jin had several business partners, including Dan Bui Shun Jin and Kai Shun Chin. Both were key figures in the Vancouver model. Dan Bui Shun Jin was known as a high roller at the casinos in British Columbia and was believed to have laundered large amounts of money through casinos. Dan Bui Shun Jin was born in Vietnam and came to Canada in the early 1990s. He quickly became involved in the real estate market in Vancouver and was known for his extravagant spending habits. According to court documents, he spent over $4 million at casinos in British Columbia between 2012 and 2014, much of which is believed to be drug money. Kai Shun Chin is a real estate developer who is known for her connections to the Triads and her ability to move large amounts of money through the real estate sector. Chin was born in China and came to Canada in the 1990s. She quickly became involved in the real estate market in Vancouver and later branched out into other areas including finance and investments. According to court documents, Chin was involved in money laundering activities between 2012 and 2015, during which time she laundered over $20 million through her real estate transactions. All three were arrested in 2015 as part of a major police operation targeting organised crime in British Columbia. Jin was charged with laundering money obtained through illegal activities including drug trafficking. The police alleged that Jin had used his company Silver International to launder millions of dollars in drug money through Vancouver's real estate market. They also alleged that he had used his connections to the Triads to facilitate the transfer of drug money from China to Canada. Jin's trial was a high-profile affair that attracted significant media attention. He was portrayed as a wealthy and powerful businessman who used his connections to the Triads to enrich himself at the expense of others. The trial lasted several years and Jin was ultimately convicted of money laundering in 2018. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but his lawyers have appealed the decision and the case is still ongoing. Dan Bui Shun Jin was sentenced to 13 years in prison for money laundering and drug trafficking in 2018. He pleaded guilty to his role in a drug trafficking operation that imported large quantities of cocaine into Canada, the funds of which were then laundered through the network of underground banks in Vancouver. Kai Shun Chin was sentenced to 7 years in prison for money laundering in 2018. She had pleaded guilty to the running of an underground bank that laundered money for the Chinese Triads, including the importation and distribution of fentanyl. The involvement of the Chinese Triads in the Vancouver model highlights the global nature of money laundering and the challenges law enforcement agencies face in combating these criminal activities. It also underscores the importance of international cooperation and information sharing in identifying and prosecuting those involved in money laundering schemes. Now, this brings us to the end of the case. If you found this interesting, do consider subscribing and liking these videos, it really helps me out. Till next time, take care.